deals out a surprise. Have a few surprises of your own. No matter what you do, no matter where you go, you've got to have an ace in the hole.
Technology is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it can make our lives more convenient and efficient. On the other, it can also make entire businesses obsolete. Walking the line of adaptation is challenging for any business owner, and Daniel Gott, co-owner of Ace Transmission, knows that well. A few years ago, Dan worked with a computer partner to develop remanufacturing software with capabilities beyond what was available at the time. But just as he's addressing the problems of the present, he has to keep an eye on the issues of the future as well, ones that threaten to upend the entirety of the transmission industry. All right, Dan, how would you sum up the state of the transmission industry in one sentence?
Ooh, changing very, very quickly. It's not what it was 20 years ago, and I think it'll be way different 20 more years than it is right now.
What are some of those changes that you're seeing?
Well, back to saying my dad started Ace with $1,200. I mean, obviously the equivalent of $1,200 in 2024 is a lot more than it was in 1981.
That's for sure.
But whatever it is, say it's $10,000, I don't know what the inflation is or whatever, but you couldn't start it again for $10,000. It's, one scan tool, or, just the tools and the technology, when I was a kid, I remember them screwing in modulators or taking a turn out of a modulator to get the transmission to do something different. And now then we got to reprogram it, and you got to have all these different computers to program this and program that and change the way things work. And I think that we're just going to see a lot more general automotive type independent automotive stores installing transmissions than transmission shops.
Interesting. We'll come back to that, but I want to hear your thoughts on what you think then the transmission industry is doing right and what it could be doing better.
One thing I think that it could be doing better is sharing more information on how to be more profitable. We go to these transmission specific seminars and I don't think they're transparent enough. I think that it's not, it's okay to talk about how much we're selling things for and talk about how much gross profit we're making on things. And it seems like that's pretty hush in the transmission world, and I don't see the need for it to be hush. There's a gazillion transmissions to be built and sold. There's plenty to go around for everybody. So if we can share more information and make everybody more profitable, and we can all change the world instead of just some people.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, on the flip side of that, what do you think the industry's doing right?
The transmissions are just lasting longer. The technology is just making them last longer. Just same as the rest of the vehicle. Vehicles last longer than they used to. And I think the aftermarket is even improving more upon that than OE, and I think they're doing a good job at staying ahead of the game, trying to find fixes.
So does a longer vehicle lifespan have negative consequences for a transmission shop?
No, I don't think so. There's more vehicles on the road than there ever was, and we're not seeing anything slowing down whatsoever. But as a whole, the transmissions are lasting longer, but I think there's more vehicles on the road to make up for it.
So going back to what you were talking about earlier on, general automotive shops potentially taking transmissions in and out, what do you think about the reverse? Should transmission shops be getting more into automotive repair or staying in their niche?
We're not doing head gaskets or anything like that, but if a vehicle comes in and it needs a set of brakes, and we're right there anyway. So we are doing some general auto repair. We're not advertising it, but we are doing some. I don't see anything wrong with it. There's there's money to be made there, so why not make it? When it's, sun's shining, make hay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so especially in light of perhaps the rise of hybrid and electric vehicles, they don't have transmissions. So what are your thoughts on EVs and how this might affect the future of the industry?
EVs don't make me lose any sleep at night, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
I don't think the United States is prepared for EVs. I don't think there's a power grid for it, and I just don't think they're going to sell. I mean, they're ridiculously expensive, and you can't go anywhere. So, the average consumer's probably not going to buy that, in my opinion, and I'm not worried about it. The fraction of, if you look at the amount of internal combustion engine vehicles versus electric vehicles that's being manufactured or is on the road in the United States, it's so minuscule it doesn't even, I'm not losing any sleep over it.
Right, yeah. The EVs seem to be definitely a buzzword, a trend perhaps in media, but as you said, what we're seeing on the road, we might be seeing more and more for sure. I definitely see more Teslas than I did pre-COVID.
Absolutely.
But to your point, still not nearly as many as the ICE vehicles.
And when the day comes, as I think it will come, we'll just have to adapt. Maybe we're rebuilding electric motors or planetary systems, we're still transferring power to wheels, so there's always going to be something there that's going to need to be rebuilt or remanufactured. So, that's my take on it. I think that when that day comes, it'll be something my kids have to worry about, not me. So, maybe I'm wrong, but we'll take it as it comes.
Yeah. We talked earlier about the software that you kind of co-developed there. Are you doing anything else to kind of help the transmission industry flourish?
One of the things we do is we attend the task force meeting from Sonex. So a lot of reman transmission facilities all over the world, actually, I guess. We all get together every year at the Sonex task force meeting and exchange ideas and what our problems are, and they will come up with a solution for that. We share some ideas with some other transmission shops. There's a few transmission shops around the country that we obviously deal with quite a bit, and we share as much information as possible. Even to our wholesalers or distributors, we try to send them why things failed and what we can do to make them not fail again. The more information that you can exchange, the better off we are, and I think that just kind of goes for about anything.
Absolutely. So what does the future of the transmission industry look like?
I think the remans are going to get bigger, and the traditional transmission shops, like my dad started in '81, mom and dad started in '81, they're going to get smaller. They're going to go away because they're not staying up with the times. They're not doing things from a finance standpoint or a technical standpoint to stay profitable and stay up with the times. Generations from my parents' era, they're used to doing things a certain way, and they're not really keeping up with the technology. We're looking at, our shop management system at our store, looking at gross profit dollars per hour, instead of gross profit percentages and things of that nature. If you're not open to those kind of ideas, one thing that, I'm a little saying that I've always kind of went by is, if you're not growing, you're dying.
If you could give one of those older transmission shops any advice or just something that would push them a little further into the modern day, what would you tell them to do first?
As bad as this sounds, I would tell them to stop building transmissions. Unless you're going to do it on a really large scale, there's way more money to be made taking a transmission out and putting one in out of a box. Whether you buy it from me or somebody else, it doesn't matter. If you're not building transmissions on a large scale, you can make so much more money per hour, per bay, taking them out and putting them in. You just can. And I know that there's a lot of people that would argue with me on that, but the fact of the matter is, we've done that. We separated our business, and one might argue, well, you're buying it from yourself. yeah, we are buying it from ourselves. But if we were to buy it from somebody else and not have our remanufacturing plant, that store would still make more money than it did back when it rebuilt every transmission.
Daniel Gott envisions the transmission business as one that helps to change the world. But he also knows that you have to be able to write the check in order to make changes. To that end, Dan continually invests in both his business and employees, helping them to keep up with the times so that they too will be able to write checks in the future to help others. It's this selfless mentality and forward-looking vision that makes Dan a vehicle care rock star.
The wheel in the sky gives some time.